In this module, two basic concepts in the chapter of time value of money are demonstrated by me using the Texas Instruments BA2 Plus Finance Calculator in the emulator mode. The two concepts are future value and present value. The objective of the module is basically to demonstrate how to calculate these concepts using the emulator. Certain familiarity with the concept is assumed. What is the future value of $100 due in 3 years if the current interest rate applicable on that deposit is 10%? So basically, finding future values is compounding, which is the reverse of discounting. So if we set up a timeline, we deposit $100 at 10%, and after 3 years, that's 1, 2, and 3, its value is going to be $133.10. How do we arrive at that? These keys are called the Tvm keys. There are 5 of them. N is number of years, IY is interest per period, PV is your present value, PMT is payment, and FV is a future value. For this particular case, we use N, IY, PV, and FV. Just to be safe, we enter payment as 0. Payment is essentially like an installment, like a mortgage or a car payment, which is of an equal amount at equal intervals of time. We'll cover that in a separate module. Right now, let's enter N equals 3. So you go to your calculator, do N equals 3. So do 3 and then hit N. It's important to first hit the number and then the associated key. The appearance of the small little triangle indicates that the calculator has accepted the numerical value that you have inputted. So it's for 3 years. What is the interest rate per period applicable? Is 10%. 10. So just notice, once again, I did 10 and then IY, not the other way around. PV is entered as minus 100. Some of you may wonder, where does the minus come from? 100, toggle plus minus, and then hit PV. The minus is actually not a bad thing. It indicates that the cash has moved away from you, which is basically that you have invested in something. So if you have deposited $100, think of it like that you go to a bank and you give them $100. So that's why the calculator needs to know whether you've received a payment or you have made a payment. So in this case, since you made a deposit, we do minus 100. That's something to keep in mind. The payment, just to be safe, you enter 0. And then we need to calculate FV. How do we do that? Not by hitting FV, but by hitting a specialized CPT button, which is compute. You do compute FV and you get 133.10. How do we know that that is the output or the answer? Is because of the appearance of this small little triangle right around here. If some of you did not get 133.10, it's most likely that your PY value is set to a number different from 1. So let's check that. So hit second IY, which will take you to PY. Second IY. And in this case, I've set it as 1. In case you have it set as 12, which is probably the case if you bought the calculator new, because this calculator is used by auto car dealerships and mortgage originators, and most payments are monthly, 12 per year. So the default value in the calculator is usually 12. If it is 12, just hit 1 and then hit enter and then hit the clear screen and go back here. So once again, compute future value is 133.1. Next topic is how do we calculate the present value given a future value. So this becomes a little bit more interesting, and a lot of finance is basically about assessing the current or the present value of a series of expected future cash flows, right? Because suppose you have a corporation and it's going to generate some cash flows. You expect it'll generate some cash flows. But the transaction for the corporation, whether it goes IPO or whether you want to buy and sell its shares or stock, is you want to know what the present value of that cash flow stream is going to be. So that's why present value is used so much. And it's almost like driving a car in reverse. So finding the present values is discounting future cash flows, and it's the reverse of compounding. So in this case, we are given that we will have a terminal value of $100 at the end of 3 years. What is the present value of that? So it links to this concept that a dollar today is worth more than a dollar tomorrow. If that's not clear to you, think of it like this. If I offer you a dollar today and I say you can have the dollar from me 100 years from now, you will obviously say I'd like to have the dollar today. In fact, you may even say that I would prefer a dollar today from you as opposed to $10,000 10,000 years from now, because you literally won't see 10,000 years. So once you discount the value of $10,000 for 10,000 years, you will see that its current value is going to be very low. So using the present value function key in this calculator, we can actually arrive at the exact value of what $100 3 years from now will be today. All right, so let's do that. So future value is basically present value times 1 plus I to the power n. If you take the 1 plus I to the power n in the denominator, you get the present value. You have $100, 1.10, that's 10%, to the power 3, you get 75.13, that's its present value. Let's see how we can do it using this calculator. We already have entered values here. We need to clear that out. How do we do that? We do second clear work. Second clear work. So you are in the time value of money key function area, second clear work. Actually, second clear TVM, and it clears out everything. N equals 3. N is 3. Once again, you hit the number first and then the associated key. Interest per year is 10%. Payment is 0. There's no periodic payment there. Payment is 0. And the future value is 100. Plus 100. Why? Because we will get $100 at the end of 3 years. What is the current value of that? Do not hit the PV button. Hit compute PV. CPT stands for compute. Compute PV. And that's 75.13, which is exactly what we got by an application of the formula, the core formula, which is underlying the present value calculation, which is embedded in the calculator. The interpretation of this is this. If you deposit $75.13 in a bank today that is offering you 10% and you do not touch that money for 3 years, it will result in $100 at the end of 3 years. That concludes a tutorial on the concept of present value and future value. This is Pank Agarwal, PhD Finance.